Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at a PlayStation 5 Duelsence controller. This has been sent in by my friend Martin, who's asked me to have a look at it. He's only had it about 2 months, and we are having a problem with the right analog stick where it drifts to the left, I believe. So all we'll do is we'll take off this front black clip panel, which comes off dead easy. We can change them around for different coloured ones. Then what we need to do, which is a little bit more trickier, is get into the top left one and right one button, and behind there is 2 screws. There's also 2 screws just at the bottom here where we've taken off the black controller cover. Yeah, I must admit I'm not a fan of the Duelsence controller. I know it does some nice cool things, but it feels a little bit cheap inside, and the fact that they've put in the thumbsticks, which are the same ones out the PlayStation 4, which was renowned for drifting, at the price they're selling these, I was expecting more. So what I'm doing now is I'm just literally taking out these bottom screws, and that'll release the top and bottom part of the controller. I would say if you are going to attempt this skill level out of 5, 1 being total novice, 5 being somebody who really knows what he's doing, I would say it's 2. The only tricky part of doing these really is getting the thumbsticks off the PCB board. Now the good thing with that is if the thumbstick's working and it's just drift, you can just change the potentiometers on that one. But today we're going to probably change the whole unit. So yeah, all you do is you get a nice little sharp tool, put it in, and then buttons just literally pop straight off. I mean, in its defense, the controller is easy to take apart. 4 screws literally hold the top and bottom together. Easy to get access to. And I've got to say as well, it's a much better controller than the PS4 controller. I hated that thing. I'm not a massive fan of the thumbsticks. I feel that they're very, very sensitive, especially the left R and right R buttons where you push them down with your thumb. I find when I'm playing shooters with the PlayStation 5 pad, when I'm holding the triggers, often push down on my thumb by accident. Just a bit of a pain, but never mind. So yeah, to get these 2 apart, once you've took the 4 screws out, you just sort of pull both ends of the where you put your hands, and there's 2 little clips here that you just need to sort of push up and bend out, and that's all that really keeps it together. You cannot really break this if you just take these 2 clips up, and then it's just a matter of just literally pull until it falls apart. The insides are all screwed in, so don't worry, nothing's going to pop out, as you'll see here. It just literally it literally just falls to bits. There you go. So that's that bit off. The battery is substantially bigger than the PlayStation 4 battery, but again, I think because of all the whizzing and haptic feedbacks and stuff like that the pad has, it doesn't last very long. I must admit the Xbox pad really shames it on battery life. I know people kick off of it. The Xbox One uses batteries and not a rechargeable battery, but to be fair, I just use a rechargeable battery pack in mine. It's no problem. But like I say, it is much better than the PlayStation 4. So what we're looking at here now is the battery pack holder. It's got 1 screw in, so we need to take that out. And that leaves us with a few ribbon cables on the main PCB that we need to disconnect. There's 2, one either left and right. There's also 2 tiny ones which are for the microphone and speaker, and also at the top is I think it's for the actual main touch pad on the front, and that's a bit of a bugger if you've got big hands like me. Unfortunately, as you can see, I've got hands like fifes, as me mate Chris McVicker used to always say when I worked at Arnold Clark. Yeah, I've got big fingers, so getting teeny little bits of things out, I always use tweezers, to be fair, which I recommend. I will do a video soon, because I've been asked by a lot of people if I could just do what sort of stuff I use for my repairs. So it's nothing really out there. I mean, probably the one outlandish thing I have got is what would I say? Well, I've got a normal soldering iron with a hot air attachment on it. I think that's a must if you're going to do this stuff. I have got I suppose, my luxury item is a desoldering machine, desoldering tool, which, to be honest, makes life a lot easier if you're going to work on a lot of stuff. But to be fair, if you're only going to do the odd repair, you know, solder pump and, you know, some solder wick will do the job. It's just a little bit harder and a bit more time consuming to do. Right, anyway, get back to this pad. So we need to take the top one off here, which is a little bit of a, like I say, it's a bit of a bugger to get in, so I'm going to have to get some tweezers in there. These two just come off nice and easy. Also, there is 4 wires soldered to the PCB board, and 2 on either side, a black and a red, and they're just the power cables for the motors and stuff like that. So them just need a quick tap of the soldering iron to take off, and that fully releases the PCB from the pad. This top blue cable, I do recommend using tweezers to get this out. It's very short, and you've got to be careful with these, because if you break them, that's it, it's game over. And because they're so new, getting parts and new ribbon cables and stuff like that is really, really difficult. So, like I say, take your time if you've never been in one of these before, and just be careful. Anything that looks fragile is, so, you know, just use your head a little bit, to be fair. Now, these 2 little tiny ones at the front there, they're the speaker and microphone ones. They're a little bit fiddly to get because they're also small, but, you know, they're not the hardest one. That blue one at the top is. So once they're all out, the board should literally pull up here and release, and that'll show where the 3D sticks and the problem part. And like I said, that's off now. Yep, lovely. And just pull that out and pull it over, and there we have the offending article. Just take the tops off there, and like I said, the thumbsticks are the exact ones that they use on the PS4, which I think is really naughty, especially with how expensive these are. I was expecting a better quality thumbstick, to be fair, and you know, 2-month-old, I don't care if he's been on it every day for every hour, this should last a long time. And Sony's warranty is its wear and tear, which I just think's a joke. So on the thumbstick you have 2 little, on this one, orange potentiometers. You can take them off, or you can literally replace the whole thing. So I've got in my hand here a brand spanking new one, which has got the green potentiometers on. I could take them green ones off and put them on there. You've got to be slightly careful, because some of them have got a smaller little connector that snaps into the middle of the potentiometer. If it's too small, when you turn the joystick left-right, for instance, there's a bit of play before it actually turns it, which is not what you want. So just make sure that actually, you know, they do fit. What I've done there is I've took one of the potentiometers off, and now the second one's off, just to basically see if these would snap on. As it turns out, they won't. So I'm going to replace the whole actual thumbstick, which is a bit of a bugger. So it's got 6 solar points for the 2 potentiometers, 2 housing points, which basically keep it in place and stop it moving, and then another 4 for the actual L1 button. So I'm just using my solder gun here to take off all the solder, Now, like I say, if you haven't got one of these, because they're quite expensive, you can just use a soldering iron with a solder pump just to suck out all the solder and then finish it off with some solder wick. If your soldering skills aren't up to it, then I wouldn't attempt it. But to be fair, when you take the board out like this, I'm just using a third hand grip here just to keep a hold of it while I do it. There's nothing round these solder points that you could damage. There's no chips, there's no sockets or anything like that. So, like I say, out of 5, 5 being the most difficult job, I'd say it's a 2, maybe it's even a 1. It's not a hard thing to change over. All I'm doing, like I say, is desoldering these bits. Sometimes when you desolder stuff, there's little bits of solder still left in the wires. The worst thing you can do is force it out, because if you force it out, you will snap the wires off the PCB, and that's it. Again, you don't want to be going down that route. So with a soldering gun, it's much easier. They just literally sucks all the solder out of the hole, and 8 out of 10 times, that's all you need to do. So there is the odd harder one, and then you literally just drops out. So I've put the new one in, and I'm just soldering it back into place now. I would also recommend you getting like a third hand, something that will, hold a PCB while you're working on it. It's always good to have a hand for your soldering iron, a hand free for using solder, etc. And it just makes things nice and easy, and to be honest, easy means that you're going to make less mistakes. Also keep a bottle of isopropyl alcohol and a toothbrush. Always use a toothbrush, and you just use that to make sure after you've soldered you get all the muck and dirt off the parts. I always give it a little bit of a scrub with a toothbrush, and then I use some earbuds just to literally wipe off any sort of solder flux or anything like that's left on the board, because you've got to remember solder flux is actually conductive, so it can cause intermittent problems. So always clean. It's what I was taught. I'm not trying to teach anybody to suck eggs here. If you know how to solder, you know how to solder. But it's for the people who've never done this before. Just clean as you go. Make sure the surfaces are nice and clean. And also, when you clean, it gives you a good sort of second look to make sure you haven't missed anything. It's quite easy to miss a solder point as you're sort of trying to put stuff back together. And keep a sort of a Boots, other brands of your pack of earbuds around as well, because they come in massively handy for cleaning. And you'll be surprised, a brand new board with a couple of solder points redone, how much muck is left on there by the residue. So, like I say, get that all taken off and cleaned up. It doesn't take it's just a couple of seconds really. I always try to just clean the chips as I go as well, because obviously when you're handling, your skin's got a bit of grease on and stuff like that. So to get this back in, all we do is we put the thumbsticks back on the pads, and then we put it back in. We have 4 cables to wire back on for the power for the motors on left and right, and then it's just a matter of doing everything in reverse that we did to take it apart, and the job's done. So as you can see, the one with the green potentiometers on is the new one. The one on the right. On the left is the one with the orange potentiometers, and that's the original one. Normally I would change both, but I just want to make sure this is all working. And the reason why I would change both is because you often find that the springs are slightly different inside, which gives one pad a slightly more stiffer feel. And if you're playing shooters and stuff like that, it's harder get reused to it. So it's better just to redo the pad, and both of them feel the same. So we've got the board PCB back in here, and what we're going to do is put it all back together, and then run some software that you can freely download, Gamepad Tester, and just Google it, and you can plug any USB pad into a computer, a laptop or whatever, and test all the buttons, all the analogs, and then obviously the proper way of testing it is connect it back up to a PlayStation 5 and try it that way. You know, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. We've got to put the little thing back together first. Martin's asked us not to put the speaker back in, and I can see why, because obviously, which I don't agree with, is the PlayStation 5 has a microphone in it, and Martin doesn't want that microphone on, because when you turn on your PlayStation 5 it's always listening, and if you're playing a game and you forget about that, you can literally be sitting there with your microphone on talking to people and people can hear you. So yeah, I'm not going to put that back in. I'm going to keep that to one side. Right, so the hardest part for me is obviously putting all these little ribbons back in, because of the size of my hands working on teeny weeny little things like that. So just take your time, and like I say, double check everything, because the worst thing you can do is put it all back together and then realise that one of the ribbons hasn't been connected and you have to take it all back apart again. So I'm just putting the side ones back in, which are the controllers for the motors and the triggers. So just going in there now. And there's two little side pieces, like little yes on each ribbon, and that gives you an idea of if, because it's hard to see if they're actually in all the way. But just look for these little yes, and the yes will be literally just above the end of the socket, so you know that it's completely in. You'll know what I mean when you're looking at it. Now this board doesn't screw in until you put the battery connector back on, which is a bit weird. I thought that would have a, you know, but you know, it is what it is. And it just sort of sits on four little rubber legs, which, you know, once it's all together, it's a solid unit. I'm not going to say it's not. Why is it always when you're making a video somebody phones you and you forget to turn your phone ringer off? Right, so let's crack back on. Get the board in, and like I say, I'm going to disconnect the microphone, but I'm going to keep the speaker on, which is what Martin wants. I'm just putting that back in there. Just clean the muck out of there. People's DNA and pads. Horrible. It's nothing worse when you get a retro console or computer and you have to clean all people's sweaty gunk that they've had hours and hours and hours on a controller. Oh, it's horrible. You find some horrible things in vintage gear, mate. So I'll warn you if you're just getting into doing repairs. I've had everything from spiders, ants, cats, smells, mice smells, rat smells, and I've even found a dead mouse as well. That was eye-opening. Never mind, I digress. So yeah, we're getting the battery holder back on now. That just screws in, like we say, with one screw that holds it in, and then obviously the battery just sits on top of it. And basically this is just reverse of everything we did when we took it apart, putting it back the way we should do. Another tip as well is if you are doing something like this for the first time and you're not quite sure what you're doing, just record yourself doing it, especially if you can't work out what a bit was or what goes back. You can actually go back to the video you were using, or if you just want to take photographs, just take a couple of on your phone, a couple of pictures of what you're doing as you're stripping stuff down, and that always helps you sort of find your footsteps back, your breadcrumbs if you want to call it that. Back so you get everything in order, and I always keep I've got an old Surface Pro 4 that I keep next to me bench that I can just connect stuff to, so we'll be using that to test the software. It's a little bit fiddly. Yeah, so basically, just what I would buy if anybody's getting into this is a nice little toolkit with some torque screwdrivers, small to medium size, a couple of plastic cutters like that red one you see on the video. You use them all the time. That, if you're wondering what that little thing is just to the right of me wrist there, that's actually a thumb drill. So you can actually just drill little things out, like if you've got broken legs in a PCB, I use that to just drill out the broken leg. Got to be careful again with wires. We'll cover that on some other videos as we get going. And let us know if you like how this camera angle is. I'm thinking of putting more cameras in where I can cut between and get better shots. So we'll see how that all works out. Again, another bit of a scrub there to get rid of the gunk on there. There's been a sticker or something on the back of that. I'm a bit anal when it comes to this sort of thing. Get the old alcohol back out. It's always good for getting rid of sticker residue and stuff like that. Honestly, toothbrush, very handy. Plenty of toilet roll. Wipe of choice. Stubborn mark off. Snap all this back together. And you've got to be careful that you don't just force this thing back together, because these little plastic sort of mounts are very easily broken. We'll skip through this a little bit. So you can see that's pretty much all back together. I've got my pad out here ready to test. We'll just put the screws in. So we get a good reading. And there's the two in the bottom and the two behind the L1 and L2. Or R1, sorry, and R2. R1 and R... No, L1 and R1. I'll get it right in a minute. See, it's really hot up in the attic. Especially when you've got soldering irons on and stuff like that. I bet it's freezing in the winter. But, you know, it is what it is. Looking for the last screw there. Get this in. And we'll get it tested. Make sure everything's okay. And that'll be it. One of the things one of my friends was asking us about, because he doesn't like the fact that the PlayStation 5's white. It doesn't bother me at all. He doesn't like the controllers being white. And he was just asking if there's any way of getting like a shell painted. But you can actually go on eBay now and buy different colour shells if you want. And if you're a bit worried about taking stuff apart, the black housing there just above my hand, that just snaps off and on, and you can buy different coloured ones of them if you want. If you just want to, you know, sort of customise your pad a little bit, make it look different. If you've got two pads, maybe, they're just literally with your thumbnail. You just stick your thumbnail into the bottom of it, and it just literally lifts up. You can't really break it. Well, you can if you go heavily in with a screwdriver, I suppose. But you know, getting these little buttons back on, a bit of a bugger, but. Just because the shape of them, they're quite hard to push in. There you go. In you go. Whoop. And get the other one in. And we're all good to go. We'll get the USB cable in there. And I always check to make sure like the charging light comes on, and the blue power light comes on. Yeah, that's been spot on. I'll get this back on. Like I say, you just put the two prong bits into under the pad there, like I'm doing. And it literally just snaps back on. There you go. Just make sure you've got the two little prongs in. And then them just literally all snap back into place. Just nice and tight. And just push down the edges there. That's it. We're back there. So in goes the USB, and there's another fixed up forward. So I hope you've learned something from that, guys, and it's been a bit useful. I do waffle on a bit. I am going to be making these a bit shorter. I think we're up to about 25 minutes here. But it's the first time I've done a pad above camera action sort of thing. But again, thank you very much for all your support, guys. We're very close to the 400 mark of subscribers. Once we hit 400, the Spectrum will be given away and the next competition will start. So please like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.